Right, so what I ended up doing was highlighting the red we couldn't really see, so I highlighted the new curve in pink and the x and the y coordinates that I used to graph those. So I want you to notice that my original curve in pencil is my parent function and the pink one is my new one. So if I was to say what happened to this to get from the pencil curve to the pink, I would say that it was definitely vertically stretched. It didn't get stretched horizontally because it still goes from 0 to 2 pi. This one goes from 0 to 2 pi. It didn't get stretched horizontally, but it did get stretched vertically because rather than just going up to 1, it goes up to 3. And rather than just going down to 1, it goes down to -3. So it got stretched vertically. Which makes sense. If you look at my scale change that's right up here, nothing happened to the x, but the y got multiplied, so that would be a vertical stretch. All right, let's go to our next one, where once again we are going to need to graph the parent function. And this time I'm just going to go from 1 to -1. And remember again, now I think I might extend this just to make it a little easier on myself. Halfway is going to be pi, and the end would be 2 pi. And then each of those, if I divide in half, that becomes my pi over 2 and my 3 pi over 2. And then halfway there would be all my pi over 4s. Pi over 4, 3/4 pi, 5/4 pi, 7/4 pi. Okay. And let's go ahead and graph our original. Remember, here I'm looking still at cosine. I'm starting at 1. At pi over 2, I go to 0. At pi, I go to -1. 3 pi over 2, I'm at 0. And back at 2 pi, I'm at 1. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in my table. This is my cosine of x. 0, pi over 2, pi. Actually, what I'm going to do, let's do this. I'm going to actually do 0. You'll see what I'm going to do this later. I'm going to do pi over 4. Then I'll do pi over 2. Then I'll do 3 pi over 4. Then I'll do pi. I might just do that. So let's see, it's 0. I am at 1. And at pi over 4, I know the cosine is square root of 2 over 2. Pi over 2, which is right up here, I'm at 0. 3/4 pi, I'd be at negative square root of 2 over 2. And at pi, I'm at -1. Then I'm going to do cosine of 4x. And so I'm multiplying the x coordinate by 4 and taking its cosine. So for the first one, I'm taking the cosine of 4 times 0, which is still 0. So I still get 1. Here I'm taking the cosine of 4 times pi over 4, which is just the cosine of pi. Look over here, the cosine of pi is -1. Then here I'm taking a cosine of 4 times pi over 2, which is 4 pi over 2, or 2 pi. Well, at 2 pi, I'm right back here, so I'm at 1. Then I'm taking a cosine of 4 times 3/4 gives me 3 pi. 4's cancel. 3 pi is on this side of the unit circle, so I'm at -1. And then cosine of 4 times pi is cosine of 4 pi, which is back over here. All right, so at 0, I'm at 1. I'm going to again do this in a different color. I'm going to use an orange highlighter this time. So at 0, I'm at 1. At pi over 4, I'm at -1. At pi over 2, I'm back up to 1. At 3 pi over 4, I'm at -1. And at pi, I'm back up to 1. So I would assume that this would just keep going like this. 5 down and back up. Maybe down, back up. Like that. So, as you can see, for this one, what has happened is I have stretched or compressed, I guess I could say. I haven't stretched it. I've compressed it horizontally. Because I did this u. Every u is a cosine curve. And rather than having one u, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these u's. So I have definitely compressed it because to get 1 u, I only need from 0 to pi over 2. A full period is just here. So I have taken and technically compressed it vertically because, look, I get 1 full cosine curve in that little space as opposed to needing this entire curve to do so. So I have compressed horizontally. Right. So let's go through and talk about amplitude and period and frequency. Amplitude is, just so you know, is always positive. Right, actually, purple here. Always positive. And amplitude is distance from the axis. Distance from, when I say distance from the axis, I mean distance from x-axis. So because it's distance, that's why it's always positive. I'll show you what I mean. For the cosine of x, the distance from the axis, we go up 1 or we go down 1. Our distance from the x-axis is 1 up or 1 down. So the distance is 1. In my 3x, this is my y equals 3 times the cosine of x. In this curve, from the x-axis, I'm 3 up or I'm 3 down. Therefore, my amplitude is 3. Now, in my y equals cosine of 4x, this is my orange one. Okay. I am 1 up or 1 down. I never go farther than 1 up or 1 down, so my amplitude is still 1. Amplitude is still 1. Period. So let's look at what a period is. A period is 2 pi times the x scale change. Well, we know that in the original cosine, the period is just 2 pi. In my pink, there is no scale change on the x, which is why it still took 2 pi for a period to happen. Now you'll notice for a full period on my orange graph, it only took pi over 2. We did a full curve right here from 0 to pi over 2, and that's because it's 2 pi times the x scale change, which is 1/4, and 2 times a fourth is a half, so we get pi over 2. All right, frequency is always 1 over the period. Therefore, the frequency for cosine is 1 over 2 pi. Notice that's not 1/2 pi. 1/2 pi would have a pi in the numerator. The pi is in the denominator. So for the pink, 1 over 2 pi, same as the original. And then for the orange, it is 1 over pi over 2, which is 2 over pi. Okay. Another way to think of it is the reciprocal of the period. So the reciprocal of 2 pi is 1 over 2 pi, and the reciprocal of pi over 2 is 2 over pi. Let's see if we can get through this example 3. Given the equation y equals -5 times the cosine of x over 2, write the scale change. So my scale change is going to be, since it's x divided by 2 in the equation, it's going to be 2 times x is the scale change, because x lies in the equation. Y tells the truth, so -5y. Now, in order to have the amplitude is affected by a vertical, by the y. And so, because if we look at this one up here, my amplitude, because we multiplied the y by 3, became 3 up and 3 down. And notice that the amplitude is always positive. It doesn't matter that this is negative. Yes, that's going to flip the graph, but that just means it's going to go 5 up and 5 down. So 5 is the amplitude. So we might want to even write here that the amplitude is always positive. It's the distance from the x-axis, and it's the absolute value of the y scale change. Okay, so that's 5. The period, we said, is 2 pi times the x scale change. So I'm going to even want to write here, amplitude is absolute value, just so we have it here as well, of y scale change. The period is 2 pi times the x scale change, which is 2, so that's 4 pi. And the frequency is the reciprocal of the period. So it's 1 over 4 pi.